tabs down.
Uh, 10 minutes. Wow, to shut down tabs. That's a lot.
I just well, you know me. I mean, my whole world is bouncing back and forth from
Yes,
tab.
you juggle a
Uh,
lot. Yeah.
do
10
I?
minutes. Wow, to shut down tabs. That's a lot.
I just well, you know me. I mean, my whole world is oh my gosh. How's that going? Oh, I gotta shut this volume off. I forgot when I go onto YouTube, it's the delay, and so that
Oh,
was me
it's
talking to us.
crazy. We're on YouTube tonight. Oh, that's so awesome. I love that.
It is awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Great to have you guys all with us. It's hang on just a sec. So, really good to have you guys all with us. We've got a very special guest with us this evening. But as we like to do, let's kick off with some gratitude. So, Stephen, what are you grateful for tonight?
In this very moment, I'm grateful that my hot water just finished boiling from my tea that I'm gonna have for today's session. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful just to have this place in this community to come to on a Wednesday night. How lovely is this?
That's
How about you?
wonderful. Yeah, so many things, wouldn't know where to start. Grateful for this lady here who can't log in. I don't know where you are. You have to go to the Mighty Network.
Hi, Sulio.
Hello,
Say
hello.
hi. Say hi to
Hi.
everybody. Sulio.
Hi,
Sulio's on
hi.
camera. You can tell we're just working through all sorts of tech issues. So just put that number in, 847. Got it? All right. So excellent. Well, that gave us a minute to kind of let a couple other people in the room at the same time. So yeah, grateful to be here with you guys. Really grateful for Anoah, the amazing work that he's doing that we'll learn a lot more about, continuing on his father's legacy. And just anything that we can do to really help promote just, not only people that are sort of in our orbit around tea and qigong, but also uh, anytime that we can have me in particular, the opportunity to support young entrepreneurs and small businesses, that's what really drives me. So excited for that. Noah, how about you? What are you grateful for tonight? And we'll introduce you a little bit more detail here in a minute.
Hey, I think today I woke up and I was really grateful for music, um, for like the rhythms that music gives me. And um, the more I listen to music, the more I realize it's just it's the beating of my heart, the my breath, coming back to my breath, balancing my breath. Um, yeah, it's catching those little offbeat moments in my life and just looking at them with no judgment, but just a smile and just seeing them as little offbeats, but reminding me of all the beautiful rhythms and harmonies that continue to bless me every day in life. So I
Oh,
guess music is my thing today. I'm grateful for.
music is a good one. Awesome. Well, I invite everybody else to type whatever you guys are grateful for into the chat. And then it's always interesting to know where everybody is. A lot of you guys have been here before, but just give everybody else an indication about how spread out we all are. But let's jump in. So welcome to the Wild Tea Party. This is a space where tea and movement converge to bring harmony, connection, and vitality to our lives. Together, we embark on a something. I just lost my place, going too fast. We embark on a journey inspired by the timeless wisdom of tea and the flowing energy of Qigong. Thich Nhat Hanh offers us this guiding reflection. Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the whole world earth revolves. It revolves slowly, evenly. I thought I had this memorized, but I don't. Slowly, evenly, without rushing towards the future, live the actual moment. Only this moment is life. In this spirit, each session will not only explore the mystery, mythology, and health benefits of a specific tea or herb, or in this case, tea ceremony, um, but also weave in the gentle practice of Qigong. Just as tea invites us to pause and savor life, Qigong helps us cultivate presence and energy through mindful movement. Together, they create a synergy that nourishes both body and spirit, offering balance, clarity, and transformation. We are honored to have you join us tonight on our shared journey as we celebrate the simple yet profound acts that ground us in the present moment. We invite you to bring your curiosity, your open heart, and perhaps in the future a friend or two to share in this unique blend of tea and Qigong. Together, we'll steep ourselves in the wisdom of nature and the flow of life. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Stephen, to lead us in some Qigong before we get a chance to get to know Noah and learn a little bit more about his world.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Hey, everybody. So happy to be here with you all again. When I was thinking about what to do tonight in this class, I was thinking about Anoah and the fact that you're heading this company that your father created, and just legacy and lineage, and it made me automatically think about the kidneys. And I just want to read something to you before we begin. The kidneys are often referred to as the root of life or the root of pre-heaven chi. This is because they store essence, which is the pre-heaven form, is derived from the parents and established at conception. The essence determines our basic constitution, hence the description of the kidneys as the root of life. Because they store the essence, the first function of the kidneys is to govern birth, growth, reproduction, and development. Amongst other functions, they also produce marrow, fill up the brain and control the bones, houses the willpower and controls the gates of life, minister fire. The kidneys are also the foundation for all the yin and yang energies in the body. And also, lastly, the kidneys are associated with the water element, and water nourishes wood, and we're entering into spring. And so it's always a good thing to nourish the kidneys, because it's going to carry us into this next season of growth and transformation and such. So let us begin our physical practice. So feel free to stand if you can, or if you want to stay seated. A lot of this can be done seated as well. So let us start by just having the legs about hip width apart. The knees are soft. The hands rest on the thighs. And let's just do the wave. So we're going to shift the hips back and bend forward with the chest open. Once the spine is parallel to the floor, you relax the head and you slowly roll up through your spine, stacking your lower back on top of your pelvis, then your middle back, your upper back, and then your head. Standing tall, shift the hips back and bend forward. And drop the head as you roll up, inhaling, moving through your spine. Exhaling as you shift your hips back and bend forward. And rolling up. Let me give you another point of view. We shift the hips slightly back and bend forward. Take your time and coordinate the movement with your breath. Feeling that stretch of the back, the low back, the mid back, the upper back, the neck. Let's do this twice more. And one more time. Slowly rolling up. Good. And then from here, let's go into water waves. So moving from the center of your body with your arms down, just turn from your hips and your waist side to side. And allow the arms to spiral around the body. Feeling the air moving through your fingers. Taking this moment to drop into the present. That was a good opportunity to release and let go of any of the worries that we may have felt during the day, and gently push them away. Feel how the spine lengthens long and the shoulders relax down away from the ears. Nice deep breaths in and out of your body. Really feel the bones of your body. Feeling the muscles. Feeling the energy within you that's actually moving you. The chi in your body animates all aspects of your being. And now tune into the energy around you, the air that you breathe, and the air that's caressing your skin and moving through your fingers. And begin to slow the movement down. Slow it down. Slow it down until we come to a point of stillness. Good. Okay, let's open the legs and feet wider than your shoulders. Let's bend the knees and place the hands on the legs. And let's shift the weight to the side and roll through the spine for moving like a river. So we shift the weight and we move through the spine, the head is last. Shift the weight, move through the spine, the head is last. Inhale as you go to one side. Exhale as you move to the other. Now you can be upright if you'd like, or you can bend slightly forward on an angle. Opening up the hips, the spine, the ribs. Moving with the quality of water. Tapping into that water element. Water nourishes wood, carrying us into this next season. Take your time. Good. Now begin to slow the movement down. Slow it down till you're centered. And then bend forward. You can bring your hands to the floor if you can reach them. Reach them to the floor, or you can put your hands on your feet or your shins or your ankles. Keep your knees soft or straighten them, whatever's comfortable for you. Feel that nice stretch of the back of the body. Stretching out the legs, the hips, the low back, opening up the kidney space. Gently bob your head yes. Gently shake your head no. Gently shake your head maybe. Soften your knees. Grab one wrist with one hand. Slowly roll up through your spine. Lift your arms above the head. Gently press the hips forward. Open the front of your body. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, open the arms out and down. Good. Let's bring the legs and feet in so they're hip width apart. And let's do a little shaking and using the healing sound for the kidneys, which is CHWOO. So we're going to shake out the hands, shake out the arms, gently pulse into your knees and feet. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out with a healing sound. Good. Now let's do the healing sound for the liver, which is shh. 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 Take 3 more breaths together. Shh. Shh. Slow the movement down. Slow it down until we're still. And just pause for a moment and feel the energy activated in your body in the stillness. Well, now let's do the flowing movement for the kidneys, which is the fountain. So we shift the hips back, the arms come forward. We curl the tailbone under. We slowly roll up through the spine as the arms lift to the height of the shoulders, hands to the height of the head, palms face away from your face, arms open out and down. As the arms go down, shift your hips back. Arms move in front of your hips. Back up the hands, face each other. Curl the tail under. Slowly roll up. Gaze towards your belly as you roll up. Lift your head as you lift your hands. Arms open out and down. Good, I'll give you another point of view. So I shift my hips back. I curl the tail under, slowly roll up as I inhale and exhale. Inhale, energy draws up through the legs, hips, the spine, and exit out through the head and the arms. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the nose. Let's do twice more. Last time. Arms down by the sides of the body. Let's bring the legs and feet close together and just place the hands on your lower belly. Soften your knees and you can close your eyes and just take 3 deep breaths into your belly. So inhale through the nose, feel the belly expand. And exhale out through the nose and feel your belly soften. Ending the practice by drawing the energy back to the center of the body, to the place where life began. Take another breath with me. And exhale. Relax the arms. Separate the legs. Make a fist with one hand. Open palm with the other. Gently bow. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. All right, back to you, Todd.
Thank you, Stephen. Wonderful as always. Always appreciate your instruction, but your voice, you have such a good voice for that. Like I look forward to the audio version of your books in the future. So, well, I'm not going to do a super long introduction because I really want us to be able to spend some time learning from Anoah about the Chinese tea ceremony. But I did think that a couple of points of interest is that everybody here, I think most everybody here, has either been through Lee's teacher training program or is at least sort of knows who Lee Holden is. And Lee uh, always talks about pu'er and always recommends as a source for that pu'er Hidden Peak Tea House. Um, and Anoa's father is the one who sort of started the journey into pu'er that has ultimately ended up with a lot of the tea that is at Hidden Peak. So you can actually go even more direct to the source in that case. So So I know I thought it might be good instead of me, for everybody that's not here, if you haven't seen the link, I'll put the link in here as well to their website. And I really encourage you, if you haven't had a chance yet, to read the About Us section, because it's a very interesting journey. I mean, we all have interesting journeys, but I think it certainly helps paint a really clear picture of just the passion and in particular for that type of tea. It was one of the very first sort of wild tea party teachings that we did on tea is around pu'er tea. And so we got a little bit more insight into sort of the process of it. And so, Noah, I'll turn it over to you. Maybe if you want to give a little bit more of history or introduction and sort of what you're so passionate about with Pure Land. But tonight we'll get a chance to actually see some really good ways of preparation and sort of a much deeper understanding of this whole Gongfu cha or the Chinese tea ceremony. So, Noah, how would you like to kick off? Any history? It doesn't need to be a whole history lesson, I don't think, but maybe just a little bit more insight into sort of what got you to this point that you felt compelled to take over this legacy business from your father.
Hey guys. I'm about to turn on my camera and I'd love to share this story. So let me wait. Bye.
Bye bye.
So, is my lens clean?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Well, I guess it all began as a family. Um, I don't think we have a picture of my pops in here, but well, yeah. Well, let me see. Um, well, yeah. Basically, um, this is my little brother, this is my little sister, and this is me. And we grew up with my dad at this space called the Medicine Buddha Temple, and it was a tea house in San Francisco. And we would just do service um, at that temple and share tea with people. Um, but it always started as a medicine first because the temple was also a Chinese medicine clinic, and I always had the privilege to hear stories from my dad about um, Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor, the foundings of Chinese medicine, and uh, and how he looked at tea as a medicine, and tea was a sort of tone setter. It set the tone for the space. Whenever people stepped into the clinic, um, there's always some tea, to welcome them. Um, and I guess the the big moment in the story is when my dad passed away. It was really unexpected um, in 2019, and I was always passionate about storytelling, um, and I was always learning about tea, but not like formally. Um, and so when my dad passed away, there wasn't any way for me to really learn about pu'er tea or the teas that he was working with because he didn't leave like a written ledger or anything. So it sparked um, this need to go and just jump into the water and go explore and learn about tea and start serving people because I did remember that my dad just told me that Anoah, in this life, the word service is all you need to remember and you'll be good. If you can just learn to serve yourself and serve others, it'll bring you a lot of joy. So I just started to go and serve teas to my friends and started pouring tea and made a bunch of mistakes and burned my fingers a bunch, literally and figuratively. Um, but I learned how to pour tea and serve tea first. And I got to meet a lot of cool people, a lot of friends that took me under their wings and taught me And so yeah, that kind of brings us to today and meeting Todd. Um, I'm not sure how you found me, Todd. I think it was on the Gongfu Tea Facebook group.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, on that wonderful community. But yeah, about 3 months ago, I decided to go back to Yunnan on a mission to build a tea set for myself and my friends, um, to help myself understand the ecosystem better, and how to build sustainably, and also to help my friends also start their tea journey. Um, so today I thought we could just sit together, have a conversation, and um, talk about tea as I set up my tea set and start pouring. And feel free to chime in. And this is just a great opportunity for us to all have a conversation together. Um, and doesn't necessarily have to be literally about tea. It could be tea adjacent. Um, so yeah, let's begin. Let's just start opening up the Pure Land tea set. So this is a Pure Land tea set. This was what I went to China to go build, and it's a Gongfu tea set that all fits into like one thing. And I'm always reminded with tea, at least Gongfu tea, about the word practice. Um, every time, every time I sit down and have tea, I feel like it's a form of martial arts because I get to come back and do something I'm familiar with, something I know will always be stable in my life, um, along with meditation, just sitting down and having a cup of tea. And so every time I do a tea ceremony, at least with this particular tea set, I have a tracker. So I've this tea set's still new, so I've only used it 11 times. But today I'll get to use it one more time. So number
Hmm.
12,
I like the sound effects.
and a little satisfying click. Um, I'll just pull this out. So, and the little symbol on there was created by my dad. It kind of circles back to, obviously it's a tea leaf, but it also, each leaf resembles one of us, his three kids. And yeah, I think it's taught me something that when I become a dad, I mean, what's more important than your children, you know? Like that love is endless, and it's a really beautiful thing. And only after my dad passed away was I like aware of like the infinite love and unconditional love that he had for me. It's like I gotta learn about a new aspect of that love through grief, just a different form of love. So this is a Pure Land tea set. I'm just gonna pull out some of the things. And yeah, what have you guys learned through grief? I'd love to hear from
Hmm.
anyone what you've learned through grief. Feel free to chime in.
I think a lot of gratitude, along with it. Like there's certainly that depth of sadness and missing out and I think there's certainly different levels of grief depending on circumstances and relationships. But I think for
Hmm.
me, it kind of goes back to that gratitude, sometimes combined with regrets for not having said things or not necessarily being ready to say goodbye.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's been a big part of it too. Nushin, how about you?
Yeah. Hi, Todd. Thank you so much. And hi there. My name is Nushin. I'm Iranian, and then Iranians love to just drink tea and brew tea together. And the tea, the concept of tea reminds me of home, and I just sat down next to my mother in the morning, and then that samovar was there, the device, and then my mother poured tea for me for breakfast. And it has been a big part of my life. And in terms of grieving, it is the tea just it's the concept of warmth and the concept of accompaniment. Accompaniment of like someone is there and holding my hand, and then the warmth of, just like the warmth of cup of tea just brings a lot of comfort and ease and help the emotion to just keep moving. So yeah, thank you so much for the question and wanting to hear our story.
Awesome. Thank you, Ocean. Stephen?
Yeah, I think that when I think about grief, I think about waves. Think about water and waves and how grief can just come in like waves. For me, when I'm grieving something, someone, and that my grief, my experience of it isn't like anybody else's. Mine doesn't necessarily look like yours or feel like yours. And just the power and giving oneself permission to express one's grief in a way that feels true to you. And also there's no time limit on grief. There's no, you feel it for as long as you need to feel it until you feel something else. So, yeah, I love this conversation. Thank you for bringing this up.
Thanks, Stephen. Hello, Jeanette.
So,
How about you?
Well, I think it means for me that life as you know it can be gone in an instant. And everything that you've worked for and strived for and thought was so important begins to lose its importance in the face of losing a loved one. And yet, by the same token, you learn to appreciate that moment and stay in the present moment.
Mm,
And you really you really begin to believe and trust in what's important, and you understand what's important.
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
thank you. Thank you. I feel like when I'm rinsing my teapot, um, I always think of it as a time to like cleanse and the water element, and it's a really cool clearing process. And grief does bring tears sometimes, but maybe the tears are a time where we can cleanse and clear some of that saltiness. Um, thank you for your shares. So I'm just gonna just brew some green tea first. All right, what are you guys brewing out there? You guys brewing any tea?
Um,
Always have some tea at the ready. I'll drink a lot of pu'er, but my favorite go-to tea is High Mountain Oolong tea from Taiwan.
Nice. I just had some oolong this morning from Tion's. Tion's is
Nice.
a really cool tea house in Berkeley. Um, they really like oolong and Tion's. Ooh, nice and close.
Steamy.
Hmm.
And Noah, what are the figures that you pour water over in the back on the back row?
Oh yeah. Um, so those are called tea pets, and our set well, it includes this little whale one. So this guy actually shoots water from this little hole here, like a real whale would. And I just think he's so cute, and I don't know. He kind of tickled my heart. Although a lot of people do favor the elephant, but we're not including the elephant this round. Maybe next batch. Um, but the elephant's super cute, and right now, for some reason, he isn't shooting water from his nose. Um, this is an elephant. Elephant is a native animal in Yunnan. Yeah, they're smaller out there in Yunnan, but I think he's adorable. And then you have the classic pee pee boy, which actually came before the thermometer. Supposedly, this is in scriptures, but he soaks water up and pees. Actually, pee pee boy is a classic. And then we got the little piggy. I always think the piggy is like abundance, it's symbol for abundance. So happy, like big Buddha, you know, big
Mhm.
Buddha. And then last, I actually really appreciate this one. This one is my great auntie's boyfriend drew this, and just like a really interesting kind of yang energy, sun energy, really beautiful. But it's also kind of feminine. So I don't know. I have little things that I keep in my tea set. But yeah, tea toys, cha chong in Chinese.
I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah, I mean I usually rinse, like pour out my first wash, um, for my tea, and I do that because I mean of course a lot of folks do that in Gong Fu Cha culture, but I also do it to like kind of wash away some of that caffeine. Especially if it's in the evening, I'll let it sit a little longer. I let this sit for a while unintentionally, but I'm happy I did because it's getting a little late, so I don't want a bunch of caffeine in my tea, so I just let the first wash go. And this tea is really strong, or I mean potent. You know, it still has like flavor and aroma even after a rinse. You're not losing out on anything. Mm. You know what's funny is smell. It's one of those things, especially with tea. It's kind of hard to reference some of the smells, especially with pu'er. It's like, what's that smell, man? Is that like an old book or something?
Yeah.
What's going on there? And I think that catches people off guard, you know? And I think it's that might be like one of the allures, at least for like the senses, especially in like this age where like we don't have as much um, fermented foods because we have like refrigerators. So we don't need fermented foods as much as we used to. And I had such an interesting conversation about this over tea when I was up in the tea mountains because since they don't have refrigerators, that's why they go towards like stinky tofu, fermented veggies, other fermented goods because it helps stores it. But it also gives them that awesome like worky complex flavor. And it's cool, you know, like how pu'er tea is such a play with like it's like basically the only high end thing where they could say like, yeah, like we molded this and like you should pay a lot of money for it. But like of course it's a skill. It's an art and a science. And but I haven't heard of like expensive kimchi or like have you guys heard of expensive kimchi or I would love to know like really expensive stinky tofu or kimchi.
I haven't. Chris, did you have a question or a thought?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, Anoa, you mentioned to spill the first pot to rid some of the caffeine for evening. I was going to ask you what tea you would recommend for evening. Um, Caffeine doesn't really bother me, but I know some people it does. By spilling that first pot, does it reduce it enough that it wouldn't affect you at night to sleep?
Uh I mean, it's subjective for me. I don't know how it would work for other people's bodies, but for me, it seems to help. Um,
And
and
just
it,
the
and
one pot, and I would assume you could do it just for anything that had caffeine, then just rinse it first, and then I guess it would just reduce it then, you're saying.
yeah, yeah, I mean, a lot of the chemicals come out in the water, and you're just dumping it basically, um, which could seem wasteful, but um, yeah, I don't see it. For me, it's just I want to make sure I feel good in my body, so that's why I do that for myself. And some like pu'er tea, you definitely want to do your first rinse, but some people will pour the hot water in and then rinse it to keep the essence and the flavor. And but if you prefer to have a lighter brew, you could just let it soak in there longer and just pour it all out. Um, it depends. But it's a lot of cultural stuff because the way I drink tea is like so Chinese because my dad also just drank tea the way he grew up drinking tea in China. And where my dad is from in China, where my aunties are, it's in Yunnan where like tea is from, and so it's not as common as a weed, but it's as common as a redwood. Um, so they grow out there in the mountains, and in China it was tea is abundant. So Gongfu cha, there's a lot of spilling, and they're pretty liberal with the way they pour tea. Whereas if you go to Japan, you're not going to see much spilling because there was a lot of work to bring tea over to Japan. So they developed a system to save and conserve their tea because it's valuable and it was hard to come by and hard to produce. So it's just a different cultural background. But I was always used to being very liberal with tea growing up.
Okay, I truly appreciate that response because when you said wasteful like that, that's always what's going through my mind when I do it here at home. So I truly appreciate that and the cultural aspect. Thank you so much for the answer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, if you go to like Whole Foods, I actually did the math on this. Like if you buy a pack of Lipton tea, there's about 10 grams of tea in a little packet, and it makes you about a nice strong mug of tea. But that is powdered. It's like powdered tea from a bush. But if you drink high quality tea, um, 10 grams of high quality tea from a tea tree in Yunnan can make you probably like 10 of these teapots of tea, a lot of tea. You don't have to add sugar or milk. So in that way, they were a bit like, well, this stuff gets you a long way. So they were pretty. They just developed a sort of, I guess they got spoiled. It's like the Monkey King story where he went to heaven and he went to the heavenly trees of peaches, and if you ate one of these peaches, you would get like divine superpowers, just one. And he went just through heaven, just picking like hundreds of these peaches and only eating the red part and then throwing away the rest. But the Chinese just had so much tea, and they developed a culture where it's like, yeah, we're not going to drink. There's actually a poem about not drinking the first brew or the second brew and only serving your guests the third brew. It's just hilarious. I think it's so up to the culture and the history and the context. I think it's all in that circumstance of it. Cheers, y'all. Mm, that's good. I also didn't know there was L-theanine in tea. That's something I learned recently. I don't think coffee has L-theanine in it, does it?
It does not.
Mm. And Noah, somebody had a question about how you pour tea. Is there a reason to hold the teapot up high in order to pour?
Oh, um, oh, okay. So that's a great question. I have always seen, actually, my dad always saw it this way as well. Um, I like this tea set and Gongfu tea as an art form, the art of tea. And like artists will do all sorts of stuff in their art. And then afterwards, we can analyze it together and find all these meanings behind the art. But in the moment, there may have not been like an intentional meaning behind it. But then when you go and like analyze it deeper, you're like, whoa, that's cool. And why did I pour it from high up? Um, I'm sure there's a good answer for that question, but I'd have to analyze it. I can say a different response, which is when I'm pouring water high up, when I'm pouring into the teapot. If I'm pouring it low, I'm doing that because um, the potential energy of the water hitting the leaves is lower, right? Because of gravity. So it's hitting it softly, like a really short waterfall, not much energy. But if I'm pouring it from high up, like all the way up here, I'll do it really high sometimes. Then a lot more energy is hitting those tea leaves, and so it's shaking the tea leaves, it's moving them. If you were like a little bug in there, it'd be terrifying, and it helps. It helps just get the tea leaves unfolding. So that's like a short answer for why I would pour it from high up into the teapot. Um, if I'm pouring into the gongdabe high up, it's just because it looks cool.
Yeah, my what I've heard is sort of like what you were saying, Anoa, is that I mean, if you're doing it like that and it's just the what they would call the liquor, right, or just the tea,
Hmm.
it's already been infused. It's probably more for performance points and artistry, but when you're doing it into the teapot, it's more invigorating for the tea leaves, like you're saying, getting more chi, more energy into there. And then it's really helping to sort of activate and wake up those leaves. So you can imagine if, like you were saying, if you were like literally right on top of the leaves, it's just super quiet and mellow. But the higher it is, the more that the gravity takes effect, and the more it's going to help to just invigorate and then agitate that tea to get more of it extracted.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a perfect word is invigorate.
And so one of the things we haven't talked about, sort of saving this for another episode, is Ising clay. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that teapot itself?
Oh yeah. So I was actually gonna pull this guy out. So this little Yixing teapot is one that my dad used for since let's see. Medicine Buddha started around 2008, so he got this in 2008. And oh, there's some poo or two in here. But actually, if you look on the walls of this teapot, it's like black, and it's not dirt or like anything dirty. It's actually just like the resin of the tea, of all the tea that he used in this teapot all these years. And I have like a few of these teapots for my dad that he used, like they were his go-tos, his faves that we would all drink tea together with. And they're made of Yixing, and Yixing's just actually the name of a city. It used to be a town, a lot smaller, but now it's pretty big. Um, and it's where these teapots are made, and the type of clay they use is called zisha. And people get really aggro, like really aggro about these teapots online. Like there's some really spicy arguments going on right now. So be careful when you mention this teapot online. I'm talking to myself right now. But basically, what separates this from like a Gaiwan or your average Joe teapot is that there's microporous pores in the clay, and over time, the tea and the aroma and the oils of the tea get absorbed into the clay, And so each time you have tea and do a session, it starts to capture some of that essence and flavor of your last tea. So some people prefer to uh, just use one type of tea with one type of teapot. Like one this teapot only for pu'er tea, only right pu'er tea. Some people don't do that. I think either way is fine. It's just what you prefer. And you could have a rainbow teapot where it's a bunch of different flavors, but it will affect the flavor of your next brew slightly. So that's niching. I think they're adorable and it's a cool color. It's a classic color. Yeah.
Awesome. I went to the with Shulia, we went to the Yixing I guess teaware. I don't know what the whole name is in Chinese, but basically the Yixing Teaware Museum. And they have this amazing model that they have built. And I'll maybe we'll talk about it in the next couple of weeks and we'll share some more videos of it. But they have this whole model, I guess maybe you call it diorama, maybe, of all these little teeny people. And it's like the entire village. And it shows the whole process of them digging the clay out of the river or the lake, and then how that then gets turned into the clay itself and sort of the sifting and how they get the clay ready, and then all of the different people that then go through making it. And like you're saying, there's some of those teapots and some of the teaware masters. Some of those things will sell for thousands of dollars because they all have the stamp on the bottom that's very unique to the artist. And just like a painter has sort of his following and people that like to collect their art, there's people that collect very specific ones from very specific teaware masters. And there's definitely an art to be able to get them to be that uniform, that shape, and then make sure that the lid fits just right and the way that the water pours out. So there's an entire art to the spout, how long the spout is, the angle that it's at, so to make sure that everything pours uniformly. So that's awesome. I like both those. That's beautiful. That one that your dad had, that patina on the inside, is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It shows character like a real vintage analog thing, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's one of the things we've talked about a lot in these wild tea parties is that a big part of the sort of our mission is trying to bring back these more sort of very tactile, sort of cause you to be fully present in this moment times. And tea is such a great way to do that, especially with how fast AI is growing and all of the augmented and virtual realities to be able to have this and then have it be this multi-sensory experience that you're using your eyes and you're hearing the sounds of it. And like you said, the smell and the taste. So you get to use all of your senses in these moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a practice of senses and it's an art, it's a meditation, um, but it's a fun art and it's a fun meditation and it activates one of those senses that I think we rarely get to play with, which is our taste buds, and our smell. And it's a cool thing to practice the palate work of it. Yeah. I got a question that asks how long does it take
Yep.
to brew this tea? Um, Actually, I want to ask you guys first, how long does it take to brew tea for you guys? How much time do you spend on average on a tea session?
You're asking about how long to let it steep or how long the whole, your own personal tea party would last.
How long does it take to brew this tea? Oh, they want to know how specifically. Okay, green tea in particular? Is that the
Yeah,
question about green tea?
the one that you've got in there now. Yeah.
I was mostly thinking about the puerty. I think the one that you're doing is puer, right?
No, no, I'm brewing green tea, but let's pivot over and let's get some pu'er tea started. Um, Pu'er tea, wow, that's a good question. I think I've brewed the same pu'er for maybe like an hour or 2 hours. I mean, whenever I had tea with my dad, my brother, and my little sister, we always would drink the tea back to water. So it started as tea and water, and then we would drink it down until nothing was left but like water. Like we really drank that tea, you know? We tasted the whole rainbow spectrum of it. So that could take like an hour. Now, if you're drinking tea, I think there's a difference between drinking tea and tasting tea. So that's actually a better way to answer the question. If you're drinking tea, you could drink it. You can drink a cup of tea in less than 2 minutes. But if you're tasting tea, then you have to take some time, and that could take a good hour or a good 2 hours to really taste a tea. And whenever I choose teas, and whenever I experience choosing teas with my dad and my family in China, we always chunked out a day to sit and taste teas together. And that took time to do that because we have to sit with our senses and spend some time with the tea. There's like a lot of layers in just one type of tea, you know? There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah, and I think
So I
some of it too, Anoa, is like with a lot of times with pu'er tea, they're really Nushin like 45-second to 1 minute-ish infusions. Like it's not sitting in there for a long period of time. Or if you're anything like Todd and you forget about it, sometimes they may be 25-minute infusions because he totally forgot he had water in the teapot. But a lot of times, one of the things that's different between sort of this version of sort of the Chinese tea ceremony is you usually have a lot more tea with literally the quantity of tea that you're putting into the teapot and shorter infusion times, as opposed to like if you were just preparing it, like if you had a tea bag's worth of tea that you were using, and you notice usually there's not very much tea in those, but a lot of times when they're using these Yixing, whether it's for oolong or pu'er, they're really putting a lot of tea in there and then shorter infusion times, and then you get multiple. And sort of as Anoa is saying, there is this sort of um, bell curve where in the beginning you're not going to get as much flavor towards, you get the third, fourth, fifth, sixth infusion. Sometimes you're getting it at the peak because all of the leaves have been opened up at that point and you're getting all of that extraction. And then, as he was saying, then it starts to taper off till you get to the end, and then you just end up with water again because you extracted everything that you could out of those leaves.
Yes, literally, yeah. It's like because we have and that's why we have these little teapots is so we have more control over the tea and it's not just sitting in a mug. Yeah, exactly. Like like normal tea bag would. Yeah, you have way more control over the tea. So I'm gonna brew this pu'er tea actually right now in this little Yixing. And I'll rinse this green tea over a teapot. Here you go. And this Yixing is new, so I'm just seasoning it. It's still getting its character.
Yeah, I've actually, anytime that I've had a brand new Yixing teapot, you said the word seasoning, I'll literally put it in a pot on the stove with a bunch of water and a bunch of tea.
And
And
just boil it.
yeah, exactly. And then just leave that in there for a long period of time just to let it absorb. And I usually try to I'm more on the side of what you said earlier about trying to use one, especially Yixing, because it is so absorbent, where if it's like a porcelain gaiwan or a glass tea mug like the ones that we have, those are designed to intentionally repel all of that so they don't maintain any of those flavors. So you can use glass or the porcelain for any type of tea anytime. But
Yeah.
because the clay itself is so absorbent, and I've never seen this. Your dad's might be as close as I've ever seen, but I've been told that you could actually, at some point, just pour hot water into a very seasoned over years teapot and then get the tea out of it without having to add tea to it.
Just with the tea resin alone on the
Yeah,
side? That's
exactly.
wild. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's wild.
Chris?
Yeah, I was just I noticed Deb's thing in the message about steeping medicinal teas to steep it longer, and I do know that as well. When I've had medicinal tea, you let it boil and boil and boil. I think for like sometimes I did it for like an hour. So I know we're doing a tea ceremony. Are the leaves like different in the teas that we're using for our tea ceremonies as opposed to the leaves for medicinal type things?
Well, a lot of, and Deb, feel free to jump in, but a lot of times if it's medicinal, like if you ever go to the Chinese pharmacist, and you go to the back and you see the doctor and you stick out your tongue and he's looking at all your stuff and your eyes and he'll write down a whole whatever scratches it looks like to me, but some people can read it. Then you take that up to the pharmacist, and then what he's giving you usually is a lot of roots and a lot of different things that needs to have very hot water and steep for a long time to extract all of the medicinal qualities out of there, as opposed to a lot of times with the tea leaves themselves. Puer is a little different because it's so compressed in some of those cakes that it takes time to get those out of there. But if you did that for, let's say, like a green tea, like a Japanese green tea, if you let it steep for too long, it's actually going to taste really bad. Like it'll just get too much. So water temperature can be a big part of it. But usually with a lot of medicinal teas that have a lot of roots, you need hotter water for a longer period of time. Deb?
Yeah, yeah, no, you're correct. Anything that's a root or a bark, you're going to use hotter water and you may bring that water to a boil with your bark or your root in it, but then you're going to turn it off and it's going to steep and decoct for quite a while. And some of them that you're using for medicinals, that are not, that are plant-based, you're not going to bring them to a boil. You're going to pour your water over and just let it sit and steep, but you let them steep for 15 to 20 minutes. That way, all of the components can be released and you're going to have a much more suitable for medicinal purposes. In other words, like you could make a cup of chamomile tea and you're only going to let it steep for 3 to 5 minutes. If you want it for a medicinal purpose, you're going to let it steep a lot longer. And so that's the difference. And I know I wrote tea, but typically if you're talking about herbal, it's called a tisane. It's not really tea. It's a tisane. And so, and as far as like what Todd was saying, yeah, you go get your prescription of herbs kind of all put together. And then they would come with very specific instructions, for each one. But there are different, like Todd gave us a great list there of the caffeine being released. And it's the same way with steep times. If you're doing a white tea, you're not going to let it steep or you're going to steep it longer at a lower temperature versus like the puer, you're going to use a higher temperature and a shorter steep time. So, yeah. Unless you just really like a stout cup of tea, that's going to rock it.
Yeah, well, that's usually what happens to me. I just forget about it, and I was like, "Well, I already brewed it. Got to drink it anyway." And I figure I'm just getting the extra benefits. But I'll just also say this: I put, and I've been to a couple of these Chinese medicine doctors, and this was my uh, pile of prescriptions there, and I can just tell you it tastes horrible. But it's supposed to be good for you. So, but you put it in a big pot and it steams or you boil it for a very long time to extract all of that out. And I don't think I've ever gone back to the Chinese doctor, the Chinese herbal pharmacist since then. But it's not even an acquired taste. I don't even know that you would ever like it. But it was effective. I will say that.
I
Yeah.
laughed when Anoah was describing puer, the way, the taste. And I remember after listening to Lee and all of his, grandeur about his puer and everything, and the first time I made it, I didn't realize that you shouldn't steep it very long. And it tasted like dirty socks and fish to me. I was like, where did they pull this out of? And then once you get the hang of it and you know what you're doing a little bit, it is rather nice at times. So, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like anything that is like um unproportional will often put humans off. Like with music, if you have a bandwidth, a certain bandwidth, and if you're filling every section of that bandwidth with energy, it just sounds like noise to a human. But if we like lower some of the frequencies and just let a little bit of the high, a little bit of the mid, and some of the low, people are like, this is music, and they love it. And I feel with like puberty, um, it can have a really like punchy bandwidth, and it can overwhelm people's senses if it's really strong. Some people love that though. Some people's tongues, or their flavor profile or match is really strong. But for me, I do like to have like more medium strength brews, and to taste the tea little by little throughout a longer session, because puer is just full of so much complexity. So
It
yeah.
reminds me, when you said that earlier too, Deb reminded me that you reminded me when you brought that up about like the smell of old books from a library or whatever.
Mm.
That when I was at Zingerman's, when actually before I worked at Rishi Tea, and we would taste all kinds of stuff. And so we were always testing different cheeses and vinegars and across the board. I mean, everything. And one of the guys there had the most vivid descriptions all the time about what he was tasting because it's all very subjective, right? And there's a lot of people that there's like, and I'll actually put these in here. Somebody posted, I think, Anoah, in the Gong Fu Facebook page, sort of these tasting wheels. So there's different ways that you can look at these things and identify them. But one time we were tasting tasting cheeses, these called washed rind cheeses.
Hmm.
Wash them to get them, and this guy said at one point that it reminded him of the dirty socks that he found in his gym locker. So very, very vivid, right? So you could actually appreciate, but we didn't go with that cheese in the end, as you might imagine. But good stuff.
cheese ch- Cheese is another one. Like I will never understand people's preference for stinky cheese, but my grandmother loves stinky cheese.
Yeah,
So every culture enjoys the funk, the
yeah,
funk. I like the
ab-
funk.
absolutely. Nushin, that's a great question. I mean, if on so I know she asked how long you can keep and store pu'er tea for. I know you guys have some pretty old pu'er teas. If you store it in the right conditions, you can store it for a very long period of time. If you leave it out in the sun, maybe not so much. But if you take care of them, the puertes in particular are designed to age. So they're designed to be able to hold. And so that's why a lot of times, especially with puerty, some of the other ones are really more designed to be uh, drunk, whatever the word is, um, as quickly as possible. So the fresher they are, you get these fresh teas every season. Um, or some of those, that's why a lot of the puertes actually have vintages on them. So it'll tell you what year that it came from, and not that it necessarily makes it better or worse, because it depends on the conditions it was stored in. But yeah, those bricks right there, how old are those?
Um, so this one's from 2000. This one is from 2003. And then Big Stone Mountain is from 2013. They actually just started to press it into cakes like this for like the practicality of not having to have big duffel bags filled with loose leaf when they were bringing it on horse to Tibet. Um, and and then they also found out that it oxidized when they started to ship it out to other countries. So it's such a cool accident, huh? It's a cool accident.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Anoa, thank you so much for being here and being with us and sharing. And I put the links to the story you're about us on the webpage, as well as the link to the tea set itself into the chat. I'll put those into the Mighty community. And we'd love to have you back as often as you'd like to come back and have a tea party with us. And there's just always so much to learn. And I love I mean, it's in the name of the company, right? Qigong. So it's the celebration of tea and Qigong. And so, Stephen, thank you so much for leading and always for your gentle instructions and very clear. And Noah, thank you so much for being with us. It's a real pleasure. And we're here to support you as much as we possibly can.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Cheers. Thank you. You
Awesome.
too. What a beautiful night.
Awesome. Stephen, any final words before we say goodbye?
No, no, just what a beautiful night. It's so fascinating. It's so fun. Thank you so much.
Stuff. Excellent. Well, I appreciate all of you guys for being here, sending lots of love and chi from Chattanooga. And we'll see you next Wednesday at the same exact time. Or if you want to join Stephen and I on Saturday for Chi Covery, we'd love to have you there as well. 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 7:30. Very early. Thank you again, Stephen, for getting up early.
7:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Pacific time.
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you.
Bye.
Ciao. Ciao. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
So much.